My husband forced my parents to cancel my sister's wedding. He said he would ruin our family if they did not obey. They obeyed. And then he turned to me and said, "Your name is not Savannah. Your parents are not your parents. And your sister is not your sister." That was the moment my revenge began. My name is Savannah Klein, and I am going to tell you the story of how my husband destroyed my sister's wedding, turned my own parents against me, and then whispered a secret so terrible that it burned my entire past to the ground. Let me start at the beginning. It was a Tuesday in October when my husband sat me down on our gray sofa in our little house in Ohio. The leaves outside were orange and red, and I remember thinking how pretty they looked against the white fence. I had just come back from grocery shopping. My hands were full of bags. Derek was not supposed to be home. He worked as a financial analyst and usually came home at 6. It was 2 in the afternoon. He was sitting in the dark. The blinds were closed. He had a glass of water in his hand, and he was staring at it like it held the secrets to the universe. I said, "Derek, you scared me. Why are you home?" He looked up at me. His eyes were red. Not crying red, but tired red. Like he had not slept in days. He said, "Savannah, we need to talk about your sister's wedding." My sister Emma was getting married in 3 days. The invitations had gone out. The flowers were ordered. The dress was hanging in my parents' spare bedroom. Emma was 24, 3 years younger than me, and she was marrying a man named Brad, who worked in construction and had a laugh that sounded like a truck engine starting. I did not love Brad, but Emma did, and that was enough for me. I put the grocery bags on the kitchen counter and walked back to the sofa. I said, "What about the wedding?" Derek put down the glass. He took my hands. His palms were cold. He said, "Savannah, I have done something. And when I tell you what it is, you are going to hate me, but you need to listen to everything I say before you speak. Can you do that for me?" My heart started beating faster. Derek was not a dramatic man. He did not make scenes. He did not raise his voice. He was the kind of husband who remembered to buy milk without being asked and who kissed my forehead every night before sleep. So to see him like this, pale and trembling, made something cold crawl up my spine. I said, "Okay, I am listening." He took a breath. He said, "Yesterday, I called your parents. I told them they needed to cancel Emma's wedding. I told them that if they did not cancel it, I would reveal something that would destroy your family forever." I stared at him. For a moment, I thought he was joking. Derek did not joke, but the human brain is strange. It tries to protect you by pretending things are not real, so I laughed. A small, confused laugh. I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Your parents believed me. They called Emma last night. They told her the wedding is off. They told her that there is a good reason, but they cannot tell her what it is yet. Emma is devastated. She has not left her room since last night. Your mother called me this morning, crying, begging me not to go through with it. But I told her it is too late. The truth is coming out anyway." I stood up. My legs felt like they were made of sand. I said, "Derek, you need to explain right now what you are saying. Why would you do that? Why would you hurt Emma like that? What truth?" He stood up too. He is 6'2" and I am 5'4". I had to look up at him. He said, "Savannah, I am going to tell you a story. And I need you to promise me that no matter how much it hurts, you will let me finish." I crossed my arms. I said, "Fine. Tell me." He said, 3 years ago, before we got married, I did something I am not proud of. I hired a private investigator to look into your family. I felt like he had slapped me. I said, "You what?" He said, "Please, let me finish. I hired a private investigator because I loved you so much that I was scared. You were too perfect, Savannah. You were kind, you were beautiful, you came from a good family. Your father is a respected dentist. Your mother is the head of the Women's Charity League. Your sister Emma is a kindergarten teacher. Everyone in your family smiled in every photograph. I had never met a family like yours. My own family was broken. My father left when I was 7. My mother drank herself into a stupor every night. So when I met you, I thought, this is too good to be true. And I was right. I said, "You are scaring me, Derek." He said, "Good, you should be scared, because the private investigator found something. He found that your perfect family has a secret that has been buried for 26 years, a secret that started the day you were born." I felt the room tilt. I grabbed the back of the sofa. He said, "Savannah, you are not who you think you are. Your name is not Savannah Klein. Your parents are not your real parents. And your sister Emma is not your sister. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He said you were adopted, but not legally, not through an agency. You were taken. The word taken landed in the room like a stone in still water. Ripples of horror spread through me. I said, taken? What do you mean taken? He said, 26 years ago, a woman named Rebecca Morneau gave birth to a baby girl in a hospital in Cincinnati. That baby was you. Rebecca was 17 years old. She was poor. She was alone. The father of the baby had abandoned her, but she wanted to keep you. She loved you. She held you in her arms and she named you Lucia. Lucia Morneau. I whispered Lucia. He said, but Rebecca had a complication during birth. She was bleeding. They had to take her to surgery. While she was under, a nurse took you from the bassinet. That nurse was your mother. Your mother, Carol Klein. I shook my head. I said no, my mother is a good woman. She volunteers at the church. She donates to the food bank. She would never, he said, she would. And she did. Carol Klein had been trying to have a baby for 7 years. She had miscarried 3 times. The doctors told her she could never carry a child to term. She was desperate. Your father, Richard, was desperate too. They had already told their families that Carol was pregnant. They had already picked out a nursery. They had already chosen a name. Savannah. When the pregnancy failed, they could not face the shame, so they made a plan. Your mother got a job as a temporary nurse at Cincinnati General Hospital. She worked there for 3 weeks. On the night you were born, she was assigned to the maternity ward. When Rebecca Morneau was taken to surgery, your mother took you. She walked out of the hospital with you wrapped in a blanket. She put you in her car. And she drove you home to the nursery she had already painted pink. Tears were streaming down my face. I did not even feel them. I said, that is not true. That cannot be true. He said, I have the proof. The private investigator found Rebecca Morneau. She is alive. She has been looking for you for 26 years. She never stopped. She filed police reports. She hired her own investigators. But back then, records were paper. Babies were not tagged with electronic bands. And your mother, Carol, knew exactly how to cover her tracks. She quit the hospital the next day. She told them she had a family emergency. She never went back. And because she was a nurse, no one suspected her. I sat down on the floor. I did not mean to. My legs just gave out. Derek knelt in front of me. He said, Savannah, I am so sorry. I should have told you when I found out. But I was a coward. I thought if I told you, you would leave me. You would hate me for digging into your past, so I kept the secret. I married you. I built a life with you. And every day, I looked at you and I thought about the woman who gave birth to you, the woman who named you Lucia, the woman who has spent her whole life wondering if you were dead or alive. I said, why now? Why did you call my parents now? Why did you ruin Emma's wedding? His face hardened. He said, because your sister Emma is not your sister, but she is not innocent either. 3 months ago, Emma found out the truth. She found the same private investigator's report in your father's study. She confronted your parents. And instead of doing the right thing, instead of telling you, they made a deal with her. They told Emma that if she kept quiet, they would pay for her entire wedding. They would give her the house after they died. They would rewrite the will to leave you nothing. I felt like I was drowning. I said, Emma knew? He said, Emma knew. And she chose a wedding dress over you. She chose a down payment on a house over your real mother. For 3 months, she has been smiling at you, hugging you, calling you her sister, while knowing that you were stolen from a teenager who was bleeding on an operating table. I buried my face in my hands. I sobbed. I sobbed so hard that my chest hurt. Derek put his arms around me, but I pushed him away. I said, you should have told me. You should have told me 3 years ago. He said, I know. I know I should have. And I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. But Savannah, I could not let Emma get married without the truth coming out. I could not stand at that wedding, watch your parents walk her down the aisle, watch them smile for the camera, knowing that they stole you. I called them yesterday and I said, cancel the wedding or I tell everyone what you did. And they canceled it, not because they felt guilty, but because they were scared. I looked up at him. My voice was raw. I said, what happens now? He said, now we go to your parents' house. Now you look them in the eye and you ask them the question you have been afraid to ask your whole life. The question you never knew you had. I said, what question? He said, who am I? I drove to my parents' house that night. Derek drove. I sat in the passenger seat and watched the orange and red leaves blur past the window. The sky was purple and pink like a bruise. I thought about the name Lucia. Lucia Morno. I said it out loud. Lucia. It felt like a stranger's name, but it also felt like a key turning in a lock. My parents live in a big white house on Maple Street, the kind of house with a porch swing and a wreath on the door. I had grown up in that house. I had learned to ride a bike on that driveway. I had scraped my knee on that sidewalk. I had celebrated every birthday at that dining room table. And now, looking at it, I felt like I was seeing a haunted house. The ghosts were not in the walls, the ghosts were in my memories. Derek parked the car. He turned to me and said, "I will be right here. If you want to leave at any moment, we leave." I said, "No, I have to do this." I walked up the front steps. I did not knock, I used my key. The door opened into the foyer. The house smelled like cinnamon candles and lemon polish. My mother's signature scents. I heard voices from the living room, my father's deep voice, my mother's higher one, and then Emma's. She was crying. I walked into the living room. My mother was sitting on the sofa next to Emma, holding her hand. My father was standing by the fireplace, his back to me. They all looked up when I entered. And the look on their faces was not surprise. It was fear, pure, naked fear. My mother said, "Savannah, honey, we did not know you were coming." I said, "I bet you did not." Emma looked at me with red, swollen eyes. She said, "Savannah, Derek called Mom and Dad yesterday and told them to cancel my wedding. He said he would ruin our family. Do you know what this is about? Because no one will tell me anything." I looked at Emma. My sister. The girl I had taught to tie her shoes. The girl I had driven to school every morning. The girl who had cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart. And I thought about what Derek had said. She knew. For 3 months she had known. And she had chosen a wedding. I said, "Emma, do you really not know? Or are you just pretending?" My father turned around. His face was pale. He said, "Savannah, whatever Derek told you, it is not what you think. Let us explain." I said, "Then explain. Tell me about Rebecca Morno." The room went silent. The cinnamon candle flickered. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Emma stopped crying. She just stared at me with wide eyes. My father said, "Where did you hear that name?" I said, "From my husband. The same husband you have been lying to for 3 years. The same husband you tried to keep quiet by canceling Emma's wedding. So go ahead, Dad. Tell me I am not Lucia Morno. Tell me I was not stolen from a hospital. Tell me my whole life is not a lie." My mother stood up. Her legs were shaking. She said, "Savannah, we did it because we loved you. We wanted you so badly. You cannot understand what it was like. 7 years of trying. 7 years of watching other women push strollers. 7 years of your father's mother asking when she would get a grandchild. We were desperate." I said, "So you stole a baby?" She said, "We saved a baby." Rebecca Morno was 17 years old. She was homeless. She had no money, no family. She could not have given you the life we gave you. We gave you piano lessons. We gave you braces. We gave you a college fund. We gave you love. I said, "You gave me a lie." Every hug, every birthday, every Christmas morning. It was all built on a crime. My father stepped forward. He said it was not a crime. It was a private adoption. The paperwork just got lost. I laughed. A cold, hard laugh that did not sound like me. I said, "Lost. You stole me from a hospital, Dad. You kidnapped me. That is not a lost paperwork. That is a felony." Emma stood up. She said, "Savannah, please, do not do this. We are a family." I turned to her. I said, "You knew? For 3 months you knew. And you said nothing. You were going to let me stand next to you at your wedding, smile for the pictures, toast to our parents, while knowing that they took me from a teenage girl who was begging to keep me." Emma's face crumpled. She said, "I was scared. Mom and Dad said if I told you, you would leave. They said you would hate us. They said it would destroy the family. I did not know what to do." I said, "So you took the house. You took the money. You took the wedding." She said, "It is not like that." I said, "Then what is it like, Emma? Tell me. What is it like to know that your sister is a stolen child? What is it like to look at your parents and not see criminals?" My mother started crying. Loud, wailing cries. She fell back onto the sofa. She said, "We are not criminals. We are your parents. We raised you. We loved you. Does that count for nothing?" I looked at her. This woman who had tucked me into bed, who had made me soup when I was sick, who had held my hair back when I threw up after drinking too much at a high school party. I loved her. I hated her. I both loved and hated her so much that I thought my heart would split in two. I said, "It counts, but it does not erase what you did. My father said, "What do you want, Savannah? Do you want us to go to jail? Do you want to destroy us? Is that what Derek wants?" I said, "Derek wants nothing. He is not the villain here. You are, you and Mom, you are the ones who took me, you are the ones who lied. You are the ones who raised me in a house of cards." I walked to the door, then I stopped. I turned back. I said, "I want to meet her." My mother looked up. Her face was blotchy with tears. She said, "Meet who?" I said, "Rebecca Morno, my real mother. I want to meet the woman you stole me from." The drive to Cincinnati took 2 hours. Derek drove again. I sat in silence. I had Rebecca's address in my phone. Derek had gotten it from the private investigator. She lived in a small apartment on the west side of the city. Not a bad neighborhood, but not a good one either. The kind of place where the paint peeled and the streetlights flickered. I had called her before we left. My hands had shaken so badly that I almost dropped the phone. A woman answered. Her voice was old and tired. I said, "Is this Rebecca Morno?" She said, "Yes." "Who is this?" I said, "My name is Savannah. But I think you know me as Lucia." There was a long silence. Then she started to cry, not loud crying. Quiet, broken crying. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep that it has no sound. She said, "Lucia, my baby. Is it really you?" I said, "It is really me. Can I come see you?" She said, "Please, please come." And now I was in the car, watching the street numbers climb down, watching the buildings get smaller and older. Derek reached over and held my hand. He did not say anything. He did not need to. We parked in front of a brick building with a broken step. The front door was unlocked. We walked up 3 flights of stairs. The hallway smelled like cigarette smoke and rice. "Apartment 3 billion?" I knocked. The door opened, and I saw her. Rebecca Morno was 53 years old, but she looked 70. Her face was lined. Her hair was gray and thin. She wore a faded blue dress and slippers. Her hands were gnarled like tree roots, but her eyes were the same as mine. Dark brown, wide, scared. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "You have his nose." I said, "Whose nose?" She said, "Your father's, your real father. He died 10 years ago, but you have his nose." I started to cry. I did not mean to, but something in me broke open. All the years of not knowing. All the years of feeling like something was missing but not knowing what. And now I was standing in front of a woman who had held me for 1 hour, 1 single hour, before a nurse took me away. A woman who had spent 26 years wondering if I was dead. A woman who had never stopped loving me. She opened her arms. I fell into them. She was smaller than me, frailer, but she held me like I was made of glass. She rocked me back and forth. She whispered in Spanish. I did not understand the words, but I understood the meaning. "You are home, you are home, you are home." We sat on her couch. It was old and sagging. The coffee table was covered in photographs. Photographs of a little girl with dark hair and dark eyes, me. She had been following me my whole life. School photos, soccer photos, a photo of me at prom in a red dress. She had cut them out of newspapers. She had found them on social media. She had saved every single one. I said, "You have been watching me?" She said, "I never stopped. After you were taken, I went to the police. They did nothing. I went to the newspapers. They did nothing. I was a poor girl with no money and no lawyer. No one listened to me. So I did the only thing I could. I watched. I waited. I prayed that one day you would find me. I said, I am so sorry. I am so sorry it took so long." She shook her head. She said, "Do not be sorry. You did nothing wrong. You were a baby. You are still my baby, my Lucia." Derek was standing by the door. He had not moved. He was crying too, big silent tears rolling down his face. Rebecca looked at him. She said, "You are the husband?" He nodded. He said, "Yes, ma'am." "I am Derek." She said, "Thank you for bringing her to me." He said, "I should have done it sooner. I am sorry." She said, "You did it. That is what matters." We talked for hours. She told me about her life. About how she had grown up in foster care. About how she had met my real father, a boy named Miguel who worked at a garage. About how he had died in a car accident when I was 2 years old. About how she had never remarried. About how she had worked as a cleaner, a cook, a cashier. About how every night she looked at the stars and talked to me. She said, "I named you Lucia because it means light. You were the light of my life, even for 1 hour. Even for 1 hour, you were my light." I said, "I want to change my name. I want to be Lucia." She started crying again. She said, "You do not have to. You can be Savannah if you want." that is who you grew up as. I said, I grew up as a lie. I want to be Lucia. I want to be your daughter. She held my face in her hands. She said, you have always been my daughter. From the moment you were born. From the moment I first held you, you have always been mine. I stayed with Rebecca for 3 days. Derek went back to Ohio to get us clothes and to pack up the apartment. I slept on Rebecca's couch. She made me eggs in the morning. We watched old movies at night. She taught me how to make her grandmother's recipe for tamales. I taught her how to use a smartphone. It was strange and wonderful and heartbreaking all at once. On the 4th day, my phone rang. It was my mother, Carol. I looked at the screen and felt nothing. No love, no hate, just emptiness. I answered, I said hello. She said, Savannah, please come home. We need to talk. Your father is sick. He has not eaten in 3 days. Emma will not speak to us, please. We are your family. I said, you are not my family. You are the people who stole me. She said, we made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we love you. Does that not count for something? I thought about it. I thought about all the years of love. The birthday parties, the vacations, the bedtime stories, the way she had held me when I had nightmares, the way my father had taught me to ride a bike, the way Emma had shared her crayons with me when we were little. It did count. It counted for a lot, but it did not change the truth. I said, I am not coming home. I am going to stay with Rebecca, my real mother. She said, Savannah, please. Do not do this. We will lose everything. If you go to the police, we will go to jail. Your father will lose his dental license. I will lose my job. Emma will lose her reputation. Please have mercy. I said, you should have thought about that before you took me. I hung up. I did not go to the police, not because I forgave them, but because I was tired. Tired of revenge, tired of anger, tired of carrying the weight of what they had done. I told Rebecca that I would not press charges. She was disappointed. She said, they stole you from me. They stole 26 years. I said, I know, and I cannot give those years back to you, but I can give you the rest of my life. And I do not want to spend that life in a courtroom. I want to spend it with you. She nodded slowly. She said, you are a better person than me, Lucia. I said, I am not better. I am just tired. Weeks passed. I changed my name legally to Lucia Morno Klein. I kept the Klein because I wanted to remember, not because I forgave, but because I wanted to remember that even bad people can do good things, and even good people can do bad things. My parents had loved me. That was real. But they had also stolen me. That was also real. Both things could be true at the same time. Emma called me. She was crying. She said, I am so sorry. I should have told you. I was a coward. I said, yes, you were. But you are my sister, not by blood, but by years, and I love you. But I need time. She said, I will wait. I will wait as long as it takes. My father wrote me a letter, a long, shaky letter in his old man handwriting. He said he was sorry. He said he had wanted a child so badly that he had lost his moral compass. He said he had spent 26 years waking up in the middle of the night, wondering if Rebecca was out there, wondering if she was okay. He said he had wanted to tell me 1,000 times but had been too afraid. He said he was a coward. He said he was ashamed. I kept the letter. I did not answer it. Derek and I went to therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy. We had a lot to work through. He had kept a secret for 3 years. That was wrong. But he had also done the right thing in the end. He had destroyed Emma's wedding to save me. He had risked everything. Our marriage, his reputation, his peace of mind. And he had done it because he loved me, not the perfect version of me, not the Savannah from the perfect family, but the real me, the stolen baby, the lost daughter, the woman who was learning to be Lucia. I forgave him. It took time, but I forgave him. Emma never married Brad. He could not handle the scandal. He said he did not sign up for a family of kidnappers. Emma was heartbroken, but she started therapy too. She started volunteering at a shelter for mothers and children. She said she wanted to do something good to make up for her silence. I respected that. I did not forgive her yet, but I respected her. Rebecca and I spent Christmas together. Just the two of us. Derek came too. We made tamales. We hung lights. We sang carols. Rebecca had never had a Christmas tree before. She had never had presents. She had never had a family. I watched her face when she saw the tree. The way her eyes lit up. The way she touched the ornaments like they were made of gold. And I thought, this is what they took from her. Not just me, but every Christmas, Every birthday, every ordinary Tuesday. They took all of it. But they could not take this moment. This moment was ours. On New Year's Eve, I went back to my parents' house. I went alone. Derek offered to come, but I said no. I needed to do this by myself. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling. The porch swing was gone. My mother opened the door. She looked old, older than Rebecca. Her hair was gray now. Her face was thin. She had lost weight. She said, "Savannah, Lucia, whichever name you want." I said, "Lucia." "Call me Lucia." She nodded. She said, "Come in." My father was in the living room. He was in a wheelchair. He had had a stroke 2 weeks after I left. He could not speak anymore. He could only make sounds, but his eyes were clear. And when he saw me, he cried. Big, silent tears that rolled down his cheeks and onto his shirt. I sat down next to him. I took his hand. His hand was cold and thin. I said, "I am not here to forgive you. I am not here to punish you. I am here to say goodbye." My mother started crying. She said, "Goodbye? What do you mean?" I said, "I mean I am moving to Cincinnati. I am going to live near Rebecca. I am going to take care of her. She is old. She is sick. She has no one else." My mother said, "But we are old too. We are sick too. We have no one else either. Emma does not come around anymore. She says she needs space. We are alone, Savannah. Lucia, please do not leave us." I looked at my father. His eyes were begging for mercy, begging for love, and I felt something crack inside me, not forgiveness, not yet, but something softer, something that might one day grow into forgiveness. I said, "I am not leaving you forever. I am leaving for now. I need to heal. I need to be with Rebecca. She waited for me for 26 years. I owe her that." My mother said, "And us? What do you owe us?" I said, "I owe you nothing. But I am giving you something anyway. I am giving you the chance to be better, to do better, to tell the truth, to make amends. If you do that, maybe one day I will come back. But that day is not today." I stood up. I kissed my father on the forehead. I hugged my mother. She felt so small in my arms, so fragile, so broken. I walked out the door. I did not look back. The lesson of this story is not that revenge is sweet. It is not that family is everything. It is not that blood is thicker than water. The lesson is this: the truth will find you. It will find you in the middle of the night. It will find you at the wedding altar. It will find you on your gray sofa on a Tuesday afternoon. You cannot outrun it. You cannot hide from it. You cannot build a house of cards high enough to keep it out. The only thing you can do is face it. Face it with open eyes and an open heart. Face it even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because on the other side of the truth is not happiness, not right away, but something better, something real. My name is Lucia Morno. I was stolen. I was found. I am still learning who I am. And that is enough. That is more than enough.